Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Who or Whom, the show that's every English major's favorite and absolutely no one else's. Joining us today is this bright young fellow right here. He's got a bit of a beard, he needs to shave, but he still looks ready to go. It's Matt David!
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you here. Let's not waste any more time. I'm going to say some sentences with the who or whom blank, and you, David, have to guess who or whom. Are you ready, David?
Am I ready? To whom does that concern?
Oh, I like your spunk. All right, let's go. Blank would like some pizza.
Who?
Correct. The best dude ever is blank.
Whom?
Correct. The teacher blank, I think, is Satan.
Who?
Correct. Blank, do you believe?
Whom?
Correct. Blank, should I discuss dinner plans with?
Who?
Incorrect.
Dang it! I was on such a roll.
No worries, you can win it back with this final sentence, and if you guess correctly, you win the grand prize.
Okay, let's do this!
Alright, here it is. To blank.
Come
on, time's running out. You can do it. Come on, man.
Home.
Correct. You've won who or whom.
This has always been my dream, and it's finally come true.
Oh, we're so excited for you. Now to present your grand prize. You get to host the rest of the podcast with me.
What?
Thanks, David, for participating. Welcome, fellow nerds, to another episode of the Writ Wit, the show where sometimes we decide not to do a theme song for absolutely no reason. I'm Matt Donald.
And I'm Matt David.
And here we are. Boom, 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 boom. I don't know what that last part was. Anyways, well, thought we'd do something a little bit different this month. Didn't we, David?
Yes, we did something very different this month, Donald.
And we like to mix it up. We like to keep it fresh.
In the bedroom with Lysol.
Oh, God. Okay, that's it. This podcast is over. Get out of here. I'm gonna find a new co-host.
Oh, boy. But we have to finish this one first before we can do anything else. And we like to start with our usual segments. So, we're going to talk a little bit about what will we
Do you want just me to say it, David? What we will rip off this month. There, was that so hard?
Well, you reversed the wording that I had, but apparently that was the problem. What will we at the Writ Wit
okay.
rip off this month?
Alright, well, let's see, I think I'll let you go first last time. I think you talked about your dumb Power Rangers train thing. So
it wasn't Power Rangers, but yeah, whatever. Go ahead.
Whatever it was. I don't know.
Go first.
Tokujiro something. I mean, it's right. I shouldn't call it dumb. We all have our own interests, because you probably think my thing is pretty dumb. In fact, you've specifically said you're not really a fan of this kind of genre. So,
which is actually the same genre that I was referring to, by the way.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay. I actually saw this last month. I didn't talk about it because I wanted to talk about Fern Gully too much, I guess.
I
saw Kong Skull Island. I really liked it. A lot of people were like, kind of, it's pretty good, or like, it's fine. I think it's really good. Like, I really like creature features, but I also think it was really beautifully shot. Like, not just the action sequences. There was always at least one shot in every scene that was, like, creative, or, like, unique, or, like, really just interesting. Like, not just like, oh, wow, that's a cool from an action standpoint. It's just cool from a filmmaking standpoint, if that makes any sense. Like, specifically at one part, during one of the action sequences, at the beginning, when Kong is, like, doing a rampage against all these helicopters, at one point you see him grab one of the helicopters and, like, it blacks out. But the way the screen is set, because, like, these are the military helicopters where the sides are open, It's like, it's sets where, like, you're looking at the helicopter from the side view, and you see these two soldiers sitting here, and Kong is moving it, but it's like they're on the screen, and they're watching it from the Kong, like, come out, but, like, the camera's moving the helicopter, if it makes any sense, so it's like they're just sitting there while the Kong is moving it around, but the camera's fixed to the helicopter. Does this make any sense? I don't know, it's a really cool shot. It makes it feel like you're in the helicopter with them. I don't know if I'm describing it too well.
Well, I can kind of see it, but the Admittedly, the image is lacking because I haven't seen the movie, but...
Right, but like, and there's a lot of beautiful cinematography with it. It's weird to see Tom Hiddleston in normal clothes. It really highlights, though, how epic his voice is. Like, you don't really think about it too much when he's already...
Did he speak in his normal voice?
Yeah, he wasn't American. His character was British. So
that seems right, somehow.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't make sense to make him do some dumb American accent, so... But no, he was British, and he was just wearing, like, a t-shirt and jeans, but he's talked exactly like Loki, and I'm like, wow, you have a really epic voice, because usually it's easier to hide when he's in, like, the crazy Asgardian clothes, and in crazy Asgardian situations. So if it's just a normal guy at the beginning at a pool table, and his talks to say, it's hard to explain. I'm really bad at describing things this month.
Well, bad in scripting. What?
Yeah, well... I'm going to edit that part out, so don't say that. So let's don't ruin the mystique. I'm flawless at scripting.
Yes, listeners will never know.
They will never know. I will use that neuralizer on them.
Neuralizer.
Does that work without visuals? Nah, it doesn't. Of course not.
I imagine you'd have to see the light to be blinded by it. But anyway.
Anyways. But so, no, I really like that. I really like creature features. I need to write more of them. That's how I'm going to rip it off. I would like to write more creature features. I've always liked the whole... mystical island that like no one has ever seen before, mysterious more than mystical, I guess, and like there's a lot of weird creatures on it. And
but there's only so many islands in the world,
Well, they sort of semi-explain it by like it's always surrounded by storms, and also because this is supposed to be tied in with the Godzilla and other sort of stuff.
The most thing.
They sort of mention that it's like not just an island on its own; it's actually a gateway to a Hollow Earth sort of thing. There's like a Hollow Earth theory. So
they're turning it into a mix of Jules Verne and Godzilla with King Kong as a headline.
I mean, I guess if you have to have a bunch of monsters, you have to hide them somewhere.
Well,
it's probably not exactly like Journey to the
Surface.
It's probably not like Journey to the Center of the Earth because it's probably not in the core. It's probably closer to just deep in the crust. Speaking of the core, that's a good movie too. I know we talked about it on this podcast.
Yeah, didn't you talk about that one?
Okay, but unlike the core, let me keep this clear. Unlike the core is a total guilty pleasure. I like it because it's terrible. Let me just clarify that I think Kong Skull Island is genuinely good. So, let me just clarify that.
You liked the last Kong movie too, as I recall.
Right, but anyways, well, that's why I ripped off. I'm going to rip off him this month. How about you?
I've been doing some reading. I don't get a chance to get through many books, but one of the things that I've been doing is I brought some books back with me, and I managed to get through a couple of them. Well, no, that's not entirely correct. I finished one and I started another one. The first one is a book called The Funhouse. It's by Dean Koontz. Originally, it was published under a pseudonym, but the idea that I'm taking from that is that despite our best plans, sometimes we end up like the people that come before us. That whole with those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Without spoiling much of the plot of The Funhouse, one of the focus characters is this mother who had a troubled childhood because her mother was so Bible-thumping Catholic, and she left the home at 21, basically as soon as she could get away, and she started having a life on her own. But something happened to her that was so extreme, so extraordinary, that she went back to that faith that she had been forced into as a coping mechanism. And so in her own time, when she started mothering her own child, she became that same mother, even though she hated the way her mom did it. And so it's not like you plan. It's not like you plan to end up the same way as people that you don't appreciate what they do. But sometimes it just happens. And so
it's like Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, how like Dr. Frankenstein does end up taking his grandfather's work because he just sees it actually might work, kind of a thing.
Well,
Speaking of which, rest in peace, Gene Wilder.
Exemplified by him being like, but then like, Dr. Frankenstein, is everything okay? Frankenstein! My name is
Frankenstein!
And that's when he finally accepts his role. Anyways.
I love that scene. But anyway, the book that I'm
Gene
currently...
Wilder, man. May he rest in peace.
Well, thanks for repeating what you didn't hear me say. But anyway...
I didn't hear you say it. I think there's something weird with the audio feed. It's alright, I'm going to edit it out flawlessly again.
The one I'm on right now is a book I've read before. It is The Treasure of Khan by Clive Cussler. It's another of his Dirk Pitt novels. Actually, it's funny because his son helps him co-author this one.
Oh, nice.
But anyway, Clive Cussler
So
makes an appearance as a character.
By Khan, you mean Khan and not Kong, like Kong Skull Island, so K-O-N-G.
Yes, I mean
okay.
Khan as in Genghis Khan. And
Just wanted to clarify for our
Empire.
listeners who are only hearing it, so...
Sure.
Anyways,
But
go on.
anyway, this book has a couple of different prologues, and one of them goes back all the way to, what was it, the 14th century, I think? When China was trying to take over... Well, right, but they were trying to take over... Mongolia was trying to take over China, and Kublai Khan, who was the leader at that time, did not have any luck because major storms wiped out his naval forces every time they tried doing it. And then there was a second thing where an archaeologist in the early 20th century, this is like the 1930s, I believe it was 1937, found...
So Indiana Jones time. Okay, go on.
Well, sure. He excavated this tomb, and they found something that pointed to the burial site for Genghis Khan himself.
Ooh.
And his aide, the British excavator archaeologist's aide, was a Mongolian. And the Mongolian duped him to get the map to where Genghis Khan was interred. And this idea in the 1930s ends up coming in the basically present day setting. I don't know exactly what year it is.
This is the Dirk Pitt novel you said, right?
Yeah, this is a Dirk Pitt novel, but it's a much later one too. Like there have been more than 20 stories involving Dirk Pitt, and this one is one of the more recent ones. And so it has this family who apparently descended from Chinggis, which is the traditional name of Genghis Khan. The world knows it as Genghis Khan, but
probably an anglicized translation, so makes sense.
Perhaps I don't know if it's the actual. I don't know if it's the actual Anglicization or not. But anyway, the point being that they have this plan to essentially restore the glory of the Mongolian Empire in the name of their founding father, Genghis. They're as part of the Golden Clan, and this plan is so meticulous, and it takes forever to execute. And sometimes. Honestly, the best plans, they matriculate over longer stretches of time. So hopefully I can use that idea in one of my stories somewhere along the line. Don't know what that's going to look like.
It's always nice to have villains that like you can tell they've been planning things for a while. I've really always been a fan of those kind of villains. What I really like about the Dirk Pitt sort of novels is that they tend to have plots that seem like the typical Indiana Jones, the world is at stake, there's like an evil organization taking over, but it's entirely made with, like, there's no fantasy elements or sci-fi elements. It's all people, like, doing people things. But he somehow uses it, like, to make it a typical Indiana Jones plot, but in a real way, if that makes any sense. Like,
so there's none of the fantastical, but it's just as much of the adventure.
Right, like, it's just as pulpy, if that makes any sense. I don't know.
Pulpy, okay, I can see where you're going with that.
So I like that.
It's one of those things to me that Dirk Pitt is... I really enjoy Dirk Pitt because he's kind of like not an everyman's James Bond, but it's amazing. His career is oddly specific, and yet he seems to have a basic knowledge of just about everything, it seems.
He's a diver, right? He dives. He's an archaeological diver?
Well, I don't know about archaeological diver, but he works for the National Underwater and Marine Agency, or
NUMA,
the acronym
right,
NUMA.
Yeah.
And
I really like the movie Sahara. I know it's not a lot like the book, and Clive Cussler himself doesn't like it, but it's a good movie on its own, I think, anyways. Like, I'm assuming... I've never really read a lot of the books. I'm assuming if Clive Cussler doesn't like it, it's probably nothing like the books. But as a movie, I like it.
I don't remember Sahara, the book, particularly, but I have read that one. I think that was actually one of a trilogy... one of a set that they did. But anyway, I've liked Clive Cussler stuff for a long time. But I need to move on because we've got other things to talk about, including I got one more thing that I do want to rip off because I watch a lot of Japanese television, tokusatsu, which kaiju movies are considered that, by the way.
Right. We mentioned that last month. I'm never gonna get the time correct.
Well, it's a bunch of other things that you.
I'm
can
gonna edit that out too.
Flawlessly.
That's the running joke for this episode. I'm gonna edit out all the mistakes I make and make it very obvious, and then say that I edited it out.
Well, does that mean you have to edit out all the sayings that you edited out flawlessly? Anyway,
no. Why would I?
This show, though, the one that I got my chance to watch recently, was one of the original tokusatsu shows. So, like most Western viewers realize that the Super Sentai series, which became Power Rangers in the States, has gone on for a long time. Obviously, There are other series as well. The biggest one being Kamen Rider, but this series is actually older than both.
Nice.
This show is called Ultraman. It was made by a different company, not Toei. It was made by Tsuburaya, who was very instrumental in getting suit actors to do basically kaiju films. And the show came out in 1966. It was called Ultraman. It's not the only one to have
good
that title,
year for campy sci-fi TV shows. Batman,
which is why I'm adding the fact that it was the 1966 version, because there are a couple other Ultraman shows. And the idea from this, and I already have a great idea of where to use this thing, but the idea that because there's just this one alien who's happening to save the world. Yeah, I know it's very Superman-esque, but the point being that the government actually is involved. Normally in tokusatsu shows, you see that the police may exist, but they're like basically nerfed. They're so neutered,
they're totally
they don't do anything right. But the government is
only
actually
the heroes
involved.
can save the day. Oh, nice.
But the government is actually involved. Like the main group of characters is called the Science Patrol. It's an international organization. They've got a bunch of different branches. Like the main headquarters is in Paris, but they have a branch in Japan and based in the Tokyo area, which of course is where this show takes place. And because it's a governmental thing, they can call in the military if they need to, and they literally try everything in the book before they before they hope that this alien called Ultraman shows up to save the day. Ultraman, by the way...
let them fight.
Ultraman, by the way, is a giant. In Japanese, the term is Kyodai hero. And essentially, Ultraman is just is a separate character. He is an alien from the land of light. I'm not going to go into the major explanations.
So heaven.
Well, it's a distant star, not heaven. But anyway,
is
actually giant-sized.
All right. Sorry.
He's actually giant-sized. And when he comes
Did you say he's Japan-sized?
Giant-sized.
He's not the size of the entire Japan?
No.
The entire Japan, oh my god. Alright, keep going.
He is giant-sized, and when he comes to Earth the first time, he finds this guy, a very capable fellow, but this guy of the Science Patrol was about to die. He was in an accident. He was in an accident. And so Ultraman offered, I will extend your life and allow you to call me, essentially, to fight with me. And so, of course, they use that. Nobody ever figures out that it's him, which I find really dumb, because they do work so closely together.
Well, just like that other show from 1966, no one finds out that Bruce Wayne is Batman, so...
That's true. But, I mean, the idea that there's actually government involvement and they actually do something... I mean, they don't rely on Ultraman. Yes, he comes in to save the day because it inevitably gets too big, but it's not like they expect him to show up and so they just say, nope, we're not doing anything. And I think that's a novel idea. I don't know why nobody's thought of that before, or used it since, but, that's something...
They use that. Like,
Yep.
The Transformers movies do that. Like, the military is very helpful with fighting against the Decepticons in those movies. They team up with the Autobots, so...
That's fair. Anyway,
I'm sure there's other examples, but...
Well, I'm sure there are, but I'm saying in tokusatsu shows where regular people become superheroes, that most of the police are so nerfed, it's like they don't exist.
So, speaking of Batman, and speaking of this sort of thing, in the Lego Batman movie, which is also great, they kind of make a running joke that the Commissioner's only job is to flick the switch to the back signal.
Oh, yeah.
They make a running joke about that. And then finally, when the villains block out the bat signal, this one person's like, "Dear gosh, you destroyed the bat signal. You have thought of everything." It's pretty great. Anyways,
all right, but anyway, I have figured out a place to use that too, which I'll talk a little bit more about in what we at the Writ Wit have writ.
How did you say that correctly? We had such a problem with what will we rip off from this month.
Don't know, don't ask, just move on.
All right. Okay, so I've mainly written more on the Megazord sequel, which I still will not reveal the name of because the first book is still not out yet. It's really close. So close. But by God, self-publishing is a lot of work. And people might be asking, well, why are you self-publishing? Why don't you go to a publisher? Here's why I'm self-publishing. I think it'll work, but I feel like most publishers will be like, oh, this isn't too much. This is enough like the Hunger Games. Can you add humans? Can you add human teenagers? Can you add romance? It needs to be more like Twilight. It'll only sell if it's more like Twilight. What if it's a human girl falling in love with a dinosaur? I'm assuming they won't be like that. But
Well, considering you were talking about Kong Skull Island, maybe it's appropriate to say Fay Ray falling for King Kong.
I mean, Fay Ray's not in this movie, but
She's not. She's not in your book either.
Right. They do, although in Kong Skull Island they do kind of go on that, but not as much as you might think. They kind of more acknowledge it. Brie Larson is in Kong Skull Island, and she's blonde. And at one point, at the very end, Kong has to save her from... okay, spoiler alert. You know what, doesn't matter. You probably knew it was coming. Alright, so the point is that's why I'm self-publishing. I want to avoid publishers being like, this stupid book with dinosaurs and laser guns, there's no way it'll sell because it's not like anything else. I think that's exactly why it will sell, but again, like I said last time, I could be wrong. But
well,
anyway,
you just hope for the best, right?
Right. That's all I can do, so...
Yeah.
I am getting some early feedback, though, from my pre-reviewers, and the responses are 100% positive so far. The most negative thing I've gotten was someone being like, this isn't the normally kind of the stuff I would read, but I really do like it still. Like, and I asked her, what is this kind of stuff you normally read? And she's like, Stephen King. I'm like, yeah, this is nothing like that. I'm not Stephen King. I'm not going to delude myself.
No,
he is a master.
That's
maybe I will get somewhere up to his level at some point.
His genre is more thriller anyway. So.
Right, and he has written a few fantasy stuff, but even that's a little different. It's more dark fantasy. I don't know. But, so yeah, I've got some proof copies come in, and then I always find one issue, so I have to order another proof copy. It takes like a week each time.
But hey, at least they only send you one copy, and they don't print the whole thing, and every mistake you made is...
well, they do print the whole thing, but I only have them send one proof copy. I could have them send as many as they wanted.
So what do they do with it? Do they use it as... To use the one we talked about last episode, do they use it as toilet paper?
No, I keep all of them. They print them on demand.
How many copies do they send you?
They send me one. I tell them to send me one, so they send me one.
Though? Do they only make one, though?
Yeah, like, the way this works on Amazon, they print by demand.
Oh, so you asked for one, and they sent you one, and then you... Okay,
yes.
Got it. So if you asked for 5 proof copies, what would you do?
I'd get 5 proof copies.
Give one to your parents and see if they find any extra silly mistakes you missed, right?
Right.
Anyway, you got anything else planned for the near future?
I'm working on a story for a collaborative sort of... It helps me with our collaborative story that we're planning, which next episode we might talk about that. Spoiler alert. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Who knows?
We got to decide that. Anyway.
It's one of our ideas for our episodes that we could have in the future. I've got a lot of them. Point is, I'm working on a prequel that's just for me, that's just about my character in it. That'll hopefully help me get more into this collaborative story. Because for me, it's a little difficult, and hopefully this will make it easier for me. So, I've been planning that. So I'm pretty excited about that. That's pretty much what me at the Writ Wit have writ. No, what am I doing? I'm an English word. What I at the Writ Wit have writ.
Whom are you talking about? Anyway.
You're using that incorrectly. Wait, where are you? I don't know anymore.
You're the English major. Anyway.
I failed my major. What have you writ?
Well, let me tell you about it. I was working on... I told you that government involvement idea I'm planning to use. I'm not to that point yet. I'm not even close. But in my story Pulsar that I was telling you about last episode, I am definitely going to incorporate that. I already have this line in mind that this character who is not does not have an armor sends out this gigantic robot as support. And his commanding officer, or basically his connection, is like, do you realize how expensive that is to send out? And the guy responds, do you think I choose when these giant monsters show up?
Right. If we could choose, we would just say they wouldn't show up. That's generally how it is.
Right. And so it's kind of... That exchange has been in my mind. I don't even think I'm going to get to it for like 40 whatever episodes in, but I just love that idea.
I always like thinking about whatever little bits of dialogue to add for scenes. I do that all the time in my stories.
I do a lot of just random scenes, and sometimes they become scene ideas that I use in a story, and that was one of them. But I'm not nearly ready for that yet. I'm only partway into episode 1. I gotta have the horse. I gotta have the horse before I can pull the cart. I know. I gotta keep plugging away. I gotta make it. a very consistent thing, as we talked about. Thanks, Dory.
Well,
anyway,
no problem, Marlin. I don't know.
Anyways, I mentioned before on this podcast Starburst. I do that with a co-author,
Right.
different one, and I'm almost through the saga. But I hate to admit that I kind of need a little bit of pressure put on me.
And I
'cause,
feel
like,
bad because you said that you want us to ask you every day, how have you been creative? And I think I've asked you, and that was like you want to do it every day for the whole year. We're almost into May, and I think I might have asked you 5 times. So once per month, basically.
The idea is more the thing that it was supposed to keep me honest. To be fair, though, it's one of those things that like I've been excited to write this because we're in the middle of a saga and I want to be done with it, but I just keep making other choices, and that's not on anybody except myself. However, if people are, getting on my case, I'll get to it faster than if I just try and motivate myself to do it. That's a topic for not this podcast. That's like a self-help podcast that we're not making. But anyway, go ahead and pressure me. Go ahead and pressure me,
I would have
Donald.
a lot of stuff to contribute in that episode, in that podcast, because I need help.
Wait. Hold on. When you say contribute to a self-help, does that mean, you're contributing your issues or you're contributing advice?
Yes, I'm contributing my issues. Now, everyone, please help me. I need it. I'm a wreck.
Well, that's a separate podcast. Maybe we have to start a new one. But anyway,
we have several podcasts all about our different gripes about life.
Well, gripes about life and different passions and stuff. We could do a BIONICLE podcast. Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be fun. Hey,
well, except for maybe it only lasts like a few episodes since BIONICLE's not really happening much now. But.
There's some podcasts that only go like a couple episodes, and that's their entire plan.
Well, maybe it's a variety podcast. So, like, we just talk until we don't have things to talk about, and we find another topic. But anyway, let's stop planning
other things to talk about. We're really making a lot of filler here. Let's talk about our topic, shall we?
I'm sorry. One more thing that I have been writing, and this is a bit of an offshoot. Last month, I mentioned that Donald here had given me an idea for our collaborative characters. It was a bit of a different take, whereas this one is also involving the same characters, but I've narrowed the cast down a little bit, and it's just an original story idea that I had, and I'm really excited with it so far. I mean, consider that in the, not even 10 hours writing time, I managed to get 20 pages done already.
Nice. Good job. So, I clap with approval.
But, it's one of those things. It's just going to be a one-shot, although it certainly is looking to be longer than a normal one-shot that I've written. But, hey, if it's a good idea, just go with it until it's done. And so that's what I'm going to do. It involves, my character and then one of our friends. We need to get him on the podcast as like a co-host or a guest host or something. But,
well, he can do it now, so yeah.
Well, maybe. But anyway, no, it's the other one.
Oh. Well, he can also do it.
He could, but...
They can all do it. Let's get a 4-man person
Let's do it. But anyway, let's not forget our dear medical expert friend. I actually used that line, by the way. But anyway.
Nice, good job. And let's not forget my mother. She always wants to be on. No, she doesn't, but...
Well, wait. Are you talking about the AE crew, or are you talking about the podcast? But anyway.
I'm talking about my literal mother.
Yes, I understand your literal mother. I'm just saying.
She wants to be on the AE crew. She's really
excited. That's what I was referencing. What did you think I was talking
about? She was the team mom.
Oh, thanks. But
anyways, enough.
Thanks, Mom.
Goddamn filler.
Just
Let's talk about
flawlessly.
World building, damn it.
We're building the world of this podcast. Come on.
We're info dumping the world of this podcast.
No, we're not info dumping yet. Because it's not info, we're just blathering. But, I mean, just edit it out flawlessly, right? Running joke. Anyway.
This month we're going to talk about world building, aren't we, David?
Yeah, especially because, we brushed on it a little bit when we talked about fantasy. Our
very first episode.
Back in the pilot, I think. But,
which was been over a year now. 7 episodes in, we made it a year. Congrats.
Hey, I think part of it's because we had the 9-month gap that had nothing to do with pregnancy.
Right.
Anyways,
so it's been over a year now. Cool.
My biggest question was that, we talk about fantasy, and there are other genres of books. How does world building change between genres? Is kind of world building in general, but that was the big question that brought this idea up.
I was nervous about doing this episode at first because I thought it would be just a rehash of our fantasy episode, but you brought up the point, no, it doesn't have to be fantasy at all. It doesn't have to be anything. It doesn't even have to be anything other than contemporary. It could still have world building. World building on its own just basically means setting up the environment that the story takes place in. And I think that's what it means anyways.
Sure.
Like, world building can be as complicated as the languages of Tolkien and the races of Tolkien, and thousands of years of Tolkien, and other things that aren't Tolkien that I can't think of right now. But it can also be, to use a completely contemporary example, I mean, not contemporary, it was in the 90s, but it was contemporary at the time. Friends was a contemporary sitcom. No sci-fi fantasy whatsoever. It was just about friends hanging out. However, Joey and Chandler were in one apartment. Monica and Rachel, that would be later. That'd be later in the show. Monica and Rachel were on the other side of the apartment, on the other side of the hall, and Central Perk was beneath them. That's world building.
Yeah.
Like, that's very basic world building. That still counts. So.
Well, I mean, you have to establish that. I mean, that I would almost call setting building more than world building. But the idea remains
it's the same sort of idea, just on a smaller scale. But yeah,
right. That the idea remains
the world of the show. So yeah,
yes, every different idea, there is something different about it, or else it'd just be reading what nonfiction, right?
Right.
Theoretically,
right. Exactly.
And so I mean, the idea of changing between genres. Consider this that. Like, if it was a sliding scale where one end is high fantasy, where it needs, like, the most world building, in my opinion, you're talking that's, like, the upper end, the 10 of your scale. Whereas slice of life, Middletown, whatever country you reside in, is lower end. It's definitely, like, you might establish Central Perk, you might establish that they live, like, right across the hall from each other, but other than that, there really isn't much that you need to address.
Right. I guess that Rachel for a bit worked at the coffee shop for her first few seasons. So,
and so finding the balance, or I should ask because I plan. You see what I'm planning. Is it okay to go on?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Let's get finding the balance. My rule of thumb is that the more elements you specifically point out to be different should be somewhere for the reader too.
Right.
I mean. If you're going to have... Well, I'll talk about that example later. But, like, if the creatures aren't humanoid and you have to describe them, then that counts as world building, right?
Right.
It just means finding ways to put it in adequately. Which is
exactly.
a segue to our next point, which is how do you incorporate it into your writing? There are a couple of different ways to do this. A couple that I listed. What about having the whole guidebook... Like the Saga of Fire and Ice have those. They're very informative, but so few people are actually interested in seeing everything that's there.
That's more for the diehard fans.
Right. So. Or you could just do it as needed and skip a lot. Or you could do the info... No, don't do the info dump!
That's called the Silmarillion. How do you pronounce that
Silmarillion?
Damn word from Tolkien?
Silmarillion was not an info dump, but it was a very...
It wasn't an info dump. My God, it was the most info dumpiest info dump there ever was been info dumped.
It was not an info dump. It was essentially
such an info dump. It's like it took a dump on all the info. It was like info crap. It was
essentially a history, though, and that was its purpose.
That's called info dumping. But like, it wasn't meant to be published because it was such an info dump. I shouldn't crap on it too much. It's Tolkien. Tolkien's great. Long live Tolkien. But the point is, he didn't want it to be published. That was actually basically just his notes for himself. And it was only published after he died.
But it tells you how fascinating his notes were and how well he built his own world, that they did publish it because it was so valuable.
Yeah, well, his son, Christopher Tolkien, published it, yeah. Like, he gathered it all up and published it, so.
Anyway, how do you incorporate it into your writing, Donald?
Like, basically have it flow naturally into the story and plot. Like, an example I gave earlier, Back to the Future. This isn't my writing. I wish it was. But I was 6 years away from being born by the time the first movie came out.
Not even a twinkle.
By the time I was born, the trilogy was finished, too, so... in Back to the Future, the flux capacitor, it's a specific thing that's made up for it. And what it takes to get charged, 1.21 gigawatts. It's gigawatts, but he uses the more archaic pronunciation for it.
I didn't think there was an archaic pronunciation. I thought it was actually a different number.
Well, it's maybe not archaic, but it's like a different kind of way to spell. It's supposed to be gigawatts. It also might have been Christopher Lloyd just reading it wrong, because back then giga was not as prominently of a word used as it is now, because gigabytes were not a thing. As in terms of how I try to incorporate it, like, I try not to info dump. I try to Like, that always used to be an issue of mine earlier, but, like, basically, if the plot isn't concerned about this, then I don't have to add in. Like, in Megazoic, for instance, people who read it, they might note that there's only Laurasia and the Turanian Kingdom. I mentioned a few other places, but the story never leaves Laurasia and the Turanian Kingdom.
Thus, you have no need to actually address the other places that exist.
Right, like, that's what I did. So that's why, because, I have no need at the time. Now, whether I'll do it later, I don't want to reveal that now, but...
Spoilers! Minor spoilers. Well, and I think what you're trying to say is that you have to leave it open to use, but if you don't use it, you don't need to tell everybody.
Right, I think so.
Is that fair?
Yeah, it's fair. Like, and there's a little bit more info on my website, which you can go at MatthewDonaldCreator.com. Ding! That was me
Cheap
winking.
plug, yeah. No, but, like, do you have... So, for those things that you need to know but they don't, do you have a document kind of thing?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I have a document. It's more for characters, but it's also for a little bit of world building, too. Like, and also kind of it fits into that hand-in-hand sometimes. Like...
obviously, they're the ones acting in the world, right? So your characters can help you do the world building.
Right,
so if you have your characters built, then that does a little bit of flesh out the world around them.
Right.
But,
the character's backstory could cause sort of world building.
Yeah. I tend to have separate... I tend to have, quote-unquote, separate documents. Like, things that I will, plan for... Maybe I don't end up using the plans, but, like, for example, when my Ranger fixed the character bio thing, sometimes I stick to them, sometimes I definitely don't, and hopefully I edit them to make them match more. But it's not something that happens in the actual story itself. I may reference story events that I'm planning to get to, have done, etc., but you don't need to regurgitate that in your narrative, right?
No, absolutely not.
As for me, I answer my question with a question. How much of it can be stated in dialogue?
Make sure it's not too awkward, like... As you know, when our world, when we hold our right hand up, that means we vote yes. If we hold our left hand up, that means we vote no. Now, you know this character that's in this world, but I'm stating it anyways.
Can you let me finish my thing here? Not necessarily just banter, but that way you don't have to rely on narration to explain it all, which of course gets away from the info dumping that we despise. For example... Somebody seeing an orange sky when they're used to our world might say, "The sky looks so different here." Yet a native responds, "Your sky isn't orange?"
But our sky is orange on sunset and sunrises.
Well, okay, no, I'm referring to more during the day though. But like rather than simply narrating, "And he saw the orange sky," you can make a simple interaction out of that. And do it that way. Yes, there's a limit to how effective that is, but as long as you can make it in dialogue, I think that's a more effective way to avoid doing it in narration, which of course is a big...
We kind of talk about though in our first episode with having a focal character who isn't used to exploring the world and asking all these questions.
The use of a focal character who serves as a proxy for the reader is
like Alice being in Wonderland, Frodo never leaving the Shire, and thus he goes on to Middle-earth. Luke never leaving Tatooine, so he goes on to explore the galaxy.
Right.
That allows easier world building because he's experiencing it like we are. So
exactly.
He or she.
If somebody is experiencing,
is
experiencing it for the first time, when does world building cross the line? When is it to become too much? Other than shameless info dumps?
When it's the Silmarillion.
Okay, it's probably based on genre. The more different your world is, the more excusable it can be, right?
Fine, no. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I'm sure I'm getting a bunch of fans of the Writ Wits, the hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of fans of our excellent
all
podcast.
Over the world.
Yeah, they're all lining up my door with the torches and pitchforks. Some of them might even have guns.
All right, but what is too much world building?
Too much. Just basically when it's not part of the plot. Like, I think a good example, like sometimes it's a lot of fun to have. That can be more expansive than you might think. Like, a lot of times, fantasy worlds have, their own little kind of games that they play, like a sport or, a card game or something. And a lot of times that's kind of filler. That's all kind of just fun stuff. But you can incorporate it into the plot. Quidditch in Harry Potter. That's often in the plot. All the time. Like, him... I can't really think of an example off the top of my head right now. Other than,
considering that the houses are in competition with each other, it's how he meets the biggest characters from those houses. Because, of course, most of the main characters from the houses we see were on the Quidditch teams, right?
And he's had a few events happen to him, like the
Rogue
Grim.
Bludger, the Grim,
yeah, like he's been on there. And I feel bad. I don't remember the final book. Did his skills in Quidditch become useful in the final battle? I know, like, the final battle involved him with the Elder Wand with Voldemort. But before that, did he was he on a broom at all?
I don't remember if he was on a broom, but I do know that
he's been on a broom plenty of times, though. At the beginning, the 7 Harrys, yeah.
But still, remember that the Resurrection Stone was encompassed in the first snitch that he caught.
Right, there you go. And also him knowing how to write
Sorry, spoilers for Harry Potter, by the way.
We spoil Harry Potter so much on this show.
Hey, it's such a good story. It's such a good story, that's why. But anyway.
Well, we should have a description of Harry Potter in our... in the description of the Writ Wit. We should say, by the way, don't listen to this if you don't want to get spoiled for Harry Potter.
Make it so, anyway.
So, Quidditch
other games that you were thinking of?
Okay, so speaking of BIONICLE, our childhood favorite, BIONICLE Mask of Light, the direct-to-DVD classic, that is remembered amongst all children of all the world fondly, just as fondly as every Disney movie ever, and maybe even Harry Potter. There is, the beginning is there's a sport called Coley, which is basically a mix of soccer, lacrosse, hockey. There's often more than 2 teams, which is kind of cool. I hear there's a really good game that someone made of it called Extreme Coley. That's a joke that no one's gonna get, but
hey,
I'm gonna keep it in because
fine, I'll let you keep it in. Hurry up, make your point.
All right, so the point is, like, they play a game with it at the beginning, and at first it just seems like, it's just kind of cool. It's world building. However, at the end, of course, the Mask of Light, the titular Mask of Light, is revealed, and his skills in it
do you mean the toe of light?
Well, the mask. Well, yeah, but like
he's wearing the mask. He is not the mask.
But I know, but the point is, like, the Mask of Light, it was in his pack during the game. When they bowed at the end, it fell out. Remember? Anyways, so also his skills that he uses during it end up being useful in the final battle with the villain Makuta, and it also shows his insecurity. Like, he messes up a move, and he really kicks himself for it, and that's an arc that he has to overcome throughout the entire movie. So
sure.
It is important. There is stuff. It's not just for world building. It is for world building, but they also incorporate it into the plot. And that is another example. Like, it's the classic example, I'd say. The archetypal example.
Well, you say that because you're biased for BIONICLE.
I love BIONICLE. If I could, I would marry BIONICLE. Not just any of the characters, just the whole concept of BIONICLE. I'd marry it.
Thus evidenced by how many fanfictions we tried writing collectively between us.
Metru Maze!
Well, you did a couple others, too. I did a couple others as well. Trying to turn...
and Krekka's Court of Law.
Trying to turn...
and Krekka's Court of Law.
I have to admit, though, the idea for Matoran Acapella was really well received. I just never wrote the thing.
BIONICLE Park Tycoon.
And what was
our
what
listeners
was the
are
one
so
that I did?
confused right now.
What was the one I did where I tried combining BIONICLE with Power Rangers? That was interesting.
BIONICLE Rangers. I don't know if that's what it was called.
I think it was called Noble Nuva. No. That was a separate story.
No, that was the thing we did. That
was a separate story. All right. Anyways,
we've lost all our audience now at this point. They're like, okay, they're talking nonsense now. So let's move on.
So
shall we?
for me, I think too much. When you look at a really good story, when you look at a really good movie, when you look at a really good book, every scene has something to contribute, and it's more than just fluff. It's more than zero, unlike a lot of our podcast material right now. But
oh my god!
Don't forget that the best stories don't waste anything.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a way to tie it in, if there's a way to tie out this world building piece into your narrative and it enhances the story, then that's a superb reason to put it in. Not an excuse to detract from your tale to build the world around it. If you're taking a hiatus from the story just to explain something about the world, it might be too much. Again, I think it depends on what genre you're in. If you're talking high fantasy and the world is supposed to be really different than the world we know, then yeah, it's a little bit more excusable. If you're in a detective novel, then it has really no purpose.
Although, again, speaking of detectives, it's world building that Sherlock Holmes is on 221 Baker Street, B, 221B Baker Street, right?
It's not.
That's world building, right?
It's not 221. It's 13. But anyway.
Okay, again, all the Holmesian fans are going to crucify me.
Anyway.
Add it to the list of the people that are just at my door.
Point being that you can make a world, but you should not take away from what you're trying to do, which is make a story, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it enhances your narrative, if you can include it in the plot, if you can include it in dialogue, then hey, we don't have a problem with it. In fact, do it because it helps your readers understand what you're trying to build. But if it gets away from that, if it becomes extraneous, then I think it becomes too much. Even if you're on the high end of a slider, where high fantasy is one end and Middletown slice of life is the low end.
Right.
And my tip is this. You need to know, even if your audience never sees it, particularly if it's going to play a role. Like, before you get to the sequel of Megazoic, you already know about some of those other countries that you may explore.
Right.
The reader doesn't see that in the first book, but they see it when it becomes relevant, right?
If it becomes relevant.
Of course,
it might not. I could stay in Laurasian Kingdom forever. Laurasian Kingdom. I don't know the Laurasian Empire forever. I don't know my own writing. Okay, I'm going to crucify myself now.
Okay, point being that you're,
Also, speaking of which, I just Googled
things.
it. It is 221B Baker Street.
What?
They're going to crucify you!
Well, I just read The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, and that was the number that came up was 13 Baker Street.
What? No. Everyone thing I'm having here is 221B Baker Street.
I can't say that I'm an expert without looking, so...
Okay, that's what I say to all the fans that want to crucify me. 10-880 Malibu Point. Come at me, bro. Iron Man 3 reference.
Yeah, I got that reference. Thank you. But anyways... the guidebook thing, for your most dedicated fans, those peeks behind the curtain can be very rewarding.
Right.
Like Donald mentioned, he had the character quirks thing. Maybe it's not something he puts in the story, but maybe if he gave it to the forum that we have that he created, maybe those fans would really appreciate seeing those things, even if they don't impact the story. That's why the guidebook types sell so well.
Come up with a bunch of character quirks that would be in the story, that would not be in the story, but you don't plan on being in the story. But I've always found little ways to incorporate them anyways, though.
Right.
Even if it's just as jokes.
Right, so. But I'm saying those things that don't make the cutting room floor, those peeks behind the curtain can be really exciting for your fans. But that's my tip.
Right. I think it's also good for you as the writer to have all these details. That helps it feel more alive to you, and that will be easier conveyed for the reader that you clearly know a lot about this world, and they can pick up on that. Like, I think having that document so you know backwards and forwards how your world works, it makes... And also, like, people might... Even if people don't know how the world works, they might point out inconsistencies that you have. And if you know how your world works inside out, even if you don't reveal it in the story, you'll be able to avoid inconsistencies. So... See what I'm saying? Like, there are little ways that, like, the reader can pick up on the fact that you know the world inside out, and they can appreciate that. Like, it makes them feel more alive for you and for them. So...
That's
like,
fair.
Speaking of Friends, it really bothered me that in the first season, Joey and Chandler were in apartment 6, I think, and then Monica and Rachel were in apartment 7. But halfway through the second season, for no reason whatsoever, they switched from 20 to 21. I mean, I guess they're on the second floor, so it makes more sense. But
20 to 21 from 6 and 7.
Right, but like they say, their rooms are the same, but their numbers on their doors changed.
I don't know. Well, I guess if there are only like 4 rooms on the first floor or whatever, the 2021. I can't speak to it. But anyway,
inconsistency though. I noticed that because they didn't think it out. So
yeah,
don't be that.
Editors.
I mean, don't be like Friends. It's only the most successful sitcom of all time, pretty much. So don't be like that.
I think that fans of Cheers and quite a few other shows would love to argue with you on that. But...
Big Bang Theory is going to go on longer now. It's on the 10th season, and they got plans for more. Friends only lasted for 10 seasons. Big Bang Theory is going to last for longer now.
Well, again, you got a lot of people of different shows that would love to argue with you about the most successful thus far. Anyways... do we have anything else to add about world building? We've built our freaking podcast world enough, I think.
No, I don't think we've built it enough. Hold on.
Don't think we've built it enough.
All right,
what do you need? Do you need a hammer and nails?
No, okay, let's see. I'm trying to think. Because that's all my notes. But let me see if there's any things I can think of. Yeah, having an encyclopedia is good, even not for other people, just for you, I think, as well. Helps it flesh it out for you more. You can come up with ideas for your world as you're writing the encyclopedia, because it gives you more of a chance to world build, and you can incorporate that into the story.
If you can incorporate it.
That can work for any kind of story. It's easier for fantasy and sci-fi, but you can do it in, like, other stories as well. Don't be afraid to info dump a little bit and then get rid of it later, I think. Editing is always important. If it's easier for you to world build through the actual writing the story, then you can probably info dump, and then when you're editing the story later, just get rid of that. Or, like, trim it down.
Sure.
Like, I think that's a good thing. Other than that, also, you don't have to listen to any of us. I mean, we may be better than you at writing.
That is true.
As one of our podcast catchphrases is. But we also just write however you want. We can't control you. We can't make you do anything.
We don't
appreciate listening to this podcast, though.
We don't want to make you do anything. The thing that we do want to recommend is that instead of using a ton of info in one place, try and pepper it throughout the story. Don't do it all in one spot. If you do it all in one spot, it might be valuable, but it's so gosh darn annoying.
Okay, I got a tip. If you do it all in one spot, don't do it at the beginning. That was an easy way to lose people. If you spend like a prologue setting up the world of a story that the reader does not care about yet, they'll just skip it.
Heck no, you got to get their attention first. And then if you keep their attention, you've earned the right to tell them about your world and how different it is.
Or maybe just make sure, give them more of the story before world building. Just don't open with world building. People don't usually care.
In looking at your notes, there are some specific characters that you wanted to mention. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh yeah. So for Megazoic, the Psi Squad are this group of characters that are very important in the book. I don't really mention it a lot in the story, but each one of them has a backstory. Each one of them has a background, and each one of them has quirks, and each one of them has certain places where they're from and where they and why they are what they are. Except for a few brief mentions and jokes, I don't really get into detail of their whole backstories. So it's just it's good for me. It helps me kind of flesh them out more, and I do that for all my characters too. So. But the Psi Squad is especially important because they're kind of a group, and they also hang out with the main characters a lot. I do a lot with several of the main characters as well. And some I get into more than others. Like, this character named Quinn, her backstory is eventually revealed in sort of passing, like, near the end, and it just kind of defines her as a character. Don't want to spoil it, because even though it's in the book...
I want you to read the book, right?
Yeah, please read the book. At this point, though, you might even have to read the book after listening. I don't know.
At this point, you can't read the book, but don't wait too long.
You know, I shouldn't get too upset about it. Honestly, at this point, probably the only way people are going to discover this podcast and listen to all these episodes is if they have read the book. So, but speaking of which, where can people get a hold of us?
Oh.
Now, I mean, you don't have a lot to contribute, so just nod. I mean, we can't see you nod.
Yes, you're correct.
Alright, so if you want to get a hold of either of us, have a question for either of us, email me at mattedonaldcreator.com and mattd@matthewdonaldcreator.com for any questions or comments. If you have a specific question for me or David here, specify which one. You can use your own email system or the contact page on my website at mattewdonaldcreator.com. I don't want to spell it out again.
Please tell me you're not going to spell it out every episode. You'd think they'd figure out it isn't enough. But
yeah,
anyway.
I just like to make absolutely sure people know exactly.
No, I understand. There have been people who... I mean, one of the biggest things with, like, the name Matt is that people insist on, unless you tell them to spell it with two T's, they like spelling it with one.
See, I don't get that. People ask me that all the time. Like, when they ask me for my name, like, Matt. I'm like, is that with one T or two? I want to say, who the hell have you seen with their name Matt that's one T?
And my favorite response is, you can't walk on me, there are two T's.
I get that exact same response. That, like...
But anyways, if you do have questions for us, if you have comments, if you have episode ideas or things you'd like us to discuss, we'd love to see those things. Especially because, like, so far we've come up with all the episode ideas, but, you know...
We're just a humble podcast with only a few listeners. Hi, Mom!
We'll pay you later.
Anyway, yeah, we'll add you into the story later. Okay, the story. Alright, anyways. But, like, if you want to follow me specifically, though, I have a professional Facebook account, at Matthew Donald Creator, or my Twitter account, at Matthew Donald 64. Why 64? Because that's when I was born, obviously. I'm 53 years old. I know a couple episodes said I was 25. That was a complete and total lie.
Yeah,
I am 53.
He's been working on 25 for a few years.
Yeah, I've been working on 25 for the last 28 years. So, and that's why my hair is thinning. It should be thinning at this point. I'm an old man. Also, the only console I play is the Nintendo 64. I still play it every day to this day. Diddy Kong Racing!
Sure, still play the Nintendo 60. Be real!
Yeah. None of
You've
this
had a PlayStation.
PlayStation, Xbox, crap, what is that? It's beyond
You've
my
had
time.
a PlayStation before. Many years, in fact. Anyways,
alright, well...
Never forget that we may be two twits who talk about ridding, but we know we're better than you. So
even though we
thanks for
spent half
listening.
this episode about world building, just filler.
Well,
I talk about how we shouldn't info dump, we shouldn't have filler in our story,
and yet we
look at
just
this
info
goddamn
dump.
episode. Like,
we just took a dump of info all over the podcast. But
Indeed.
hopefully
Well,
next time we'll be more on track. But until then, thanks for listening.
I'm Matt Donald.
And I'm Matt David. We'll see
Thanks
you
for
next
listening.
time.
So long. Get out of here.